It was a scene that played out countless times during her childhood. A mother scolding a son, followed by the sound of a door slamming, then silence. It was a sound that haunted Vivian's dreams. So when she heard it now, the instinct to fix it, to help, surged through her. But she knew better than to pry. 3 days ago, she had met her new neighbor, a young woman named Amelia Hayes, and learned about the dark circles under her eyes and the hollow ache in her chest. She knew enough about grief to understand that some wounds needed time to heal, not interference. Still, the silence from downstairs was persistent, too much so, and it set off alarm bells in Vivian's mind. People needed help. They asked for it. They didn't hide behind closed doors. So after pacing her sterile apartment, she knocked. When there was no response, she tried the doorknob. It was unlocked. This was not unusual for Vivian. She had always found solace in order, in the predictability of a well-designed space. Her apartment was an extension of that, a reflection of the control she exerted over her professional life. Every object had its place. Every surface was immaculate. Even her emotions were carefully curated. Never too high, never too low. Control, it was what had driven her to success, and it was what she used to bury the ghosts of her past. Inside Amelia's apartment, the hallway was dim, the air thick with the scent of old books and fresh paint. The walls were lined with bookshelves filled with well-loved paperbacks, their spines whispering stories untold. At the end of the hall, a faint light emanated from beneath the door to the bedroom. Cautiously, Vivian stepped in. The sight that greeted her was both striking and heartbreaking. A lone figure hunched over a table, their back to the door, shoulders shaking slightly. In the soft glow of the laptop screen, the face was obscured, the identity hidden. All Vivian could see was the way the body trembled, the quiet sobs that racked it, and the utter desolation that seemed to ooze from it. There was no sound louder than silence in the face of despair. So Vivian didn't speak. She simply stood there, watching, waiting for the person to turn around, for them to acknowledge her presence. She wasn't sure why she was there, why she hadn't left after seeing the glimpse of pain, but something kept her rooted to the spot. When the figure finally looked up, Vivian gasped. It was Amelia, her neighbor, the woman she had seen moving in 2 days ago. But this was a side to her that Vivian had never witnessed, a raw vulnerability that was both heartbreaking and captivating. For a moment, neither woman spoke. Time seemed to stand still, and in that silence, a bond formed between them, a recognition of shared experiences, of battles fought silently in the shadows. Then Amelia did something unexpected. She didn't try to hide her face. She didn't pretend that nothing had happened. Instead, she wiped away her tears, forcing a smile, trying to make light of the situation. It was a mixture of embarrassment and resignation that tugged at Vivian's heartstrings. "It's just a bad day," Amelia said, her voice cracking slightly. "Nothing to worry about. I'm fine." The lie was transparent, but Vivian played along. She nodded understandingly, though her eyes betrayed her concern. "Of course," she said softly, "just a bad day." Vivian knew when to respect boundaries, and she sensed that Amelia needed space, so she excused herself, leaving the apartment as quietly as she had entered it. Outside, the city bustled with life, oblivious to the pain unfolding behind closed doors. The sun shone brightly, mocking the darkness within. Back in her apartment, Vivian couldn't shake off the image of Amelia's tear-streaked face. The encounter had shaken her out of her self-imposed isolation. She thought about reaching out, offering support, but dismissed the idea. What did she know about Amelia's pain? What right did she have to intrude? Yet the questions echoed in Vivian's mind. She paced her apartment restlessly, the sleek surfaces no longer offering comfort. The orderliness a mockery of her chaotic thoughts. As evening fell, the silence from the apartment below intensified, making Vivian's loneliness feel unbearably heavy. The walls seemed to close in on her, suffocating her with their sameness. Just as she was about to give in to the rising tide of emotions, her phone buzzed. It was a text from her assistant, letting her know that dinner plans had been cancelled. The lab results were in, and they weren't good. The lead researcher was out of town, which meant that Vivian would have to look for a new doctor. Plus, she was in the middle of something, a breakthrough that she could feel but not quite reach. It was frustrating, but she couldn't afford to be distracted. "Damn it," she muttered, running a hand through her hair. Looking at the unopened messages from her date, she realized that maybe sometimes you had to step outside of yourself, break your own rules in order to find the missing piece. Back in her apartment, Amelia sat on the floor amidst a sea of cardboard boxes, the remnants of a life she once led. Around her, the apartment was a jumble of furniture and memories, a testament to a love that had turned out to be a sham. She stared at her worn sneakers, the laces tangled, mirroring the chaos in her heart. Liam, the mere mention of his name sent a fresh wave of pain through her. How could she have been so blind? How could she have trusted him, believed in him, when he was just putting on a show? She had liked the show, though it had made her forget the harsh edges of the world, if only for a little while. The realization that he had been living a double life hit her like a physical blow. It left her breathless, her world crumbling around her. In that moment, she felt utterly betrayed, not just by Liam, but by herself, by her own capacity to hope. She had allowed herself to believe that she could love again, that someone could love her. And it had been a lie that she had willingly walked into. Amelia felt the tears stinging her eyes. She blinked them back, refusing to give Liam the satisfaction of seeing her cry. Her silence had been her shield, her protection against a world that never understood her. And now it had become her prison, trapping her in a cage of her own making. She missed the warmth of human connection, the comfort of shared laughter, the joy of a simple touch. But she had built her walls brick by brick, stone by stone, and they were strong. She had been safe behind them. She had thrived in her solitude. Why had she let Liam break them down? The question hung in the air, unanswered, like a shroud. Vivian reached Amelia's apartment and hesitated before knocking. She smoothed down her dress, trying to regain the composure she had lost in the last few days. Her friends had given her a hard time about coming, teasing her about having a secret crush on her neighbor. But this was no fling. She was doing this for her. This was about helping someone in need. Taking a deep breath, Vivian knocked, the sound echoing in the suddenly silent hallway. Subject line: collaboration opportunity. That was too forward, too businesslike. She deleted it and started again. Subject line: coffee. That was too blunt, too abrupt, too much pressure. Maybe something more neutral. Subject line: Midtown loft. Too vague, too mysterious. What about something warmer? Subject line: hope you're well. Too nosy, too personal. After another failed attempt, she simply typed in her subject line, "Thought you might find this interesting." She hit send, then walked away, letting the email sit like a seed planted. Now she waited. She waited for the tentative reply, the polite but firm refusal, and then the follow-up question, the one that would open the door. And when it came, she was ready. The email popped up. "Who is this?" It was exactly the response she was expecting. Perfect. She wasted no time. She got straight to the point. "I saw you at the laundromat yesterday. I know it's not our usual venue, but I figured it was worth a try. I have a feeling we should talk. Do you have some time next week?" She waited, checking her phone every few minutes for the inevitable, "Who is this?" reply. But instead, she got a response almost immediately. "Oh," she typed back, throwing in a wink emoji for good measure. "You have no idea how right you are." This wasn't what she expected. This was exciting. This was a challenge. This was intriguing. Vivian smiled. She met Amelia at a small Italian restaurant near the loft. It was one of her favorites, known for its rustic decor and its even more rustic owner, Nano Enzo. Over the years, Vivian had forged a reputation for spotting talent early, for nurturing ideas that others had dismissed. She had a knack for recognizing the potential in the overlooked and the undervalued. But she wasn't just a mentor. She was also a savvy investor, a shrewd judge of character. And today, she was on the hunt. She had a feeling that the young woman sitting across from her knew something she didn't yet realize she knew. "What brings you here?" Amelia asked, her eyes wary. "Me? Oh, I live above you," Vivian replied, her smile disarming. "Though if I hadn't heard you singing along to ABBA at the top of your lungs, I might have kept walking." Amelia blushed, embarrassed. I didn't realize my singing could carry that far." "Don't worry," Vivian said with a wave of her hand. "It was quite entertaining. Reminded me of my college days." The conversation flowed easily from there, touching on topics as diverse as their love for ABBA to the challenges of living in the city. Vivian listened attentively, probing with the right questions, all the while keeping an eye on Amelia's body language, searching for clues, gauging her comfort level. As the lunch progressed, Vivian subtly steered the conversation towards Amelia's passions, her dreams, her aspirations. All the while, she was looking for any indication of the talent she was sure Amelia possessed. There was a reason Vivian had chosen this restaurant. Not only was the food excellent, but it was also filled with young creatives, artists, musicians, and writers, the very people whose work Amelia had mentioned wanting to connect with. In choosing this environment, Vivian was sending a message. She was letting Amelia know that she understood where her interests lay, and that she was ready to support her. "My dream is to create a space for artists, a place where they can connect, share their work, get feedback, maybe even collaborate," Amelia said, her eyes shining with passion. "But I don't know where to start. It's such a big project." Vivian leaned forward, her eyes twinkling. "You want to build a social media platform for artists," she said, her voice barely a whisper, but charged with excitement. "We could do this together, you and me." She reached out, her hand hovering over Amelia's. "I can help you make it happen." Amelia looked up, startled. She had been pouring her heart out, yes, but she hadn't expected anyone to take her seriously, let alone offer to help. Over the next few weeks, Vivian was a whirlwind of activity. She put her vast network to work, reaching out to everyone from app developers to graphic designers, all the while keeping a close eye on Amelia, making sure she was comfortable with each step of the process. For her part, Amelia blossomed under Vivian's guidance. Her initial shyness gradually gave way to confidence as she began to see the tangible progress of her idea. Their evenings were filled with the sounds of hammering, sawing, and painting as they worked late into the night, fueled by takeout coffee and pizza. The loft, once a testament to Amelia's loneliness, now buzzed with activity, becoming a hive of creativity. Vivian knew that the key to this project was Amelia's unique perspective as an artist. While Vivian understood the technical aspects of building a social media platform, it was Amelia's artistic touch that would set their project apart. Every decision they made, every feature they added, every design they reviewed, was filtered through this lens. They wanted to create an app that not only solved practical problems for artists, but also celebrated their work, giving them a platform to showcase their talents. As the weeks turned into months, the app began to take shape. Its name, Artex, a fusion of art and text, symbolized its purpose, a place where artists could express themselves freely. The app's interface was designed to be as intuitive and user-friendly as possible, with features tailored to the needs of artists. There was a built-in community forum where artists could interact with each other, a collaborative workspace where they could work on projects together, and a gallery section where they could display their work. But what truly set Artex apart was its focus on feedback. Every piece of artwork uploaded to the app was automatically paired with an art therapist, who would provide constructive criticism and emotional support. Throughout this journey, Vivian was more than just a mentor or advisor. She was a cheerleader, a sounding board, and a friend. She had seen countless startups come and go, and she knew the odds were stacked against them. But she also knew that this project was different. It wasn't just an app, it was a community. It was a support system. It was a dream. And she was committed to seeing it through. The launch of Artex was everything they had hoped for, and more. Artists from around the world signed up, eager to share their work and connect with others. The app quickly became a hub of activity, with users praising its unique features and supportive community. Looking back, Vivian realized that she hadn't just invested in an app. She had invested in a movement, a revolution in the way artists interacted and collaborated. One evening, as Vivian and Amelia stood in the bustling heart of their app, surrounded by the digital artwork of thousands of artists, they knew they had created something special. It was more than just a success story. It was a testament to the power of dreams, the magic of collaboration, and the unwavering spirit of artists everywhere. And it all started with a chance encounter, an email sent, and a shared love for ABBA. As the sun set over the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, Vivian turned to Amelia, a proud smile on her face. "You did it," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "We did it," Amelia corrected, returning the smile. Together, they had taken an idea born out of pain and turned it into a beacon of hope for artists around the world. The journey had been long and arduous, but the result was worth every sacrifice. In the months following the launch of Artex, Vivian and Amelia's lives took unexpected turns. Artists they had never met before reached out, thanking them for creating a platform that finally understood their struggles. Investors interested in supporting their mission knocked on their digital doors, and opportunities they had only dreamed of materialized before them. But through it all, Vivian and Amelia remained grounded. They continued to work tirelessly, improving Artex, expanding its reach, and strengthening its impact. For Vivian, seeing the success of Artex brought a sense of fulfillment that she had never experienced before. She had spent her life seeking the next big thing, chasing the thrill of innovation. But she had never felt the profound satisfaction that came from nurturing a project that had touched the lives of so many. The joy on the faces of the artists, the gratitude in their voices, was a reward that went beyond any financial gain or public recognition. As for Amelia, the experience had been nothing short of transformative. Once a shy, hesitant artist, she had blossomed into a confident leader, her voice stronger, her spirit more resilient. The support of Vivian, the belief in her abilities, and the positive impact of Artex had given her the strength to pursue her dreams. Looking back on that chance encounter over ABBA music, Vivian and Amelia couldn't help but smile. It had been a moment that had changed their lives forever, forging a bond of friendship, purpose, and shared accomplishment. They had started with a song, but they had ended up creating an anthem. She loved him. She loved him enough to forgive him. She loved him enough to work through the hurt. Maybe she could love him enough to hold his gaze and tell him he was wrong. She stood frozen, watching the door close behind him, the click of the lock echoing in her ears like a gunshot. His words were a tight fist around her heart, squeezing the air out of her lungs. "We can't do this anymore, Lily. I want a divorce." "Why?" "Because I cheated on you with someone else. Because I lied about loving you. Because I chose her over you." "You never asked me why, Lily. Because I never gave you a reason. You never saw the cracks in me, the darkness in my eyes. But she did. God, how she did. And yet she still saw something in him, something worth fighting for. She loved him. She loved him enough to forgive him. She loved him enough to work through the hurt. Maybe she could love him enough to hold his gaze and tell him he was wrong." A knock on the door made her jump. Who could it be? She hadn't told anyone she was here. Then she heard his voice, low and laced with concern. "Lily, are you in there?" Of course he would come back. He always came back. "Lily, please open the door. I just want to talk to you." Her hand trembled as she reached for the knob. Was this the moment she had dreaded all along? Was this the moment when everything she held dear, her marriage, her sanity, her very sense of self would shatter into a million pieces? Her fingers tightened around the doorknob, her knuckles turning white. Should she let him in? Should she confront him with the wreckage of her heart and ask the questions that clawed at her throat? Or should she slam the door in his face, walk away from him, leave him standing there with nothing but his lies and regrets? A single tear escaped, tracing a lonely path down her cheek. She loved him. She loved him enough to forgive him. She loved him enough to work through the hurt. Maybe she could love him enough to hold his gaze and tell him he was wrong. Then another knock, more insistent this time, and another. And then the sound that made her freeze, the distinct click of the lock being forced open. She turned slowly, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and resignation. There he was, the living embodiment of her torment, standing in the doorway with a mixture of concern and guilt on his face. His eyes, once the windows to her soul, now looked distant and guarded. His touch, once her solace, now felt like a brand. She watched him approach, each step he took resonating with the thud of a drum in the silence of the room. He stopped in front of her, his face etched with worry. "Lily, I need to talk to you." Please let me explain. She wanted to scream, to lash out, to demand answers. But all that came out was a whisper. Why? The single word hung in the air between them, pregnant with unspoken accusations and a lifetime of shared history. He flinched at the raw vulnerability in her voice and in her eyes. The mask he had so carefully constructed crumbled just a fraction, revealing the turmoil within. I'm sorry, Lily. I never meant for things to end like this. I never meant to hurt you. His voice cracked with emotion, betraying the composure he was so adept at displaying. She could see the conflict raging within him, the battle between remorse and the consequences of his actions. But she was done being his therapist, his confidant, his shoulder to cry on. You have to go, Liam. I need some space. Her voice was devoid of emotion, a monotone statement of fact. No accusation, no recrimination, just a quiet assertion of her needs. She could feel the hurt radiating off him in waves, the regret, the guilt, but none of it was directed towards her. He was suffering, yes, but for his own reasons, his own choices. She refused to be the crutch he leaned on when his own reflection scared him. I don't want to make things worse, he murmured, his eyes searching hers for understanding, for forgiveness. She wanted to reach out, to touch him, to tell him everything would be all right. But she pulled back, her hand hovering mid-air like a butterfly afraid to land. She couldn't risk it. She couldn't risk losing herself in the labyrinth of his emotions, getting lost in the quicksand of his regrets. You already have, Liam, she whispered, her voice cracking. You already have. He was gone. The apartment was empty, silent. She could hear the echo of his footsteps in the hallway, the closing door reverberating in her chest like a death knell. Now what? The silence was deafening, pressing in on her from all sides, amplifying the hollowness within her. It was a silence that had been years in the making, a silence born of unsaid words, buried resentments, and half-forgotten dreams. Now that the dam had broken, leaving her raw and exposed, she wanted to scream, to tear up the carpet, to shatter the mirrors, to break free from the prison of her own making. But she didn't. Instead, she sat there, curled up on the sofa, enveloped in the silence, letting the echoes wash over her, hoping they would wash away the pain. But they didn't. They only intensified it, reminding her of all that she had lost, of all that she might never get back. There was a knock at the door, a hesitant, uncertain knock that made her jump. Who could it be? Had he come back? No, it wasn't him. It was just her neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, bringing over some soup and a kind word. Heard what happened, dear. Didn't mean to intrude, but I thought you might want some company. She sat with Amelia for hours, a comforting presence in the sea of loneliness. And when she finally left, the apartment seemed even emptier, the silence even more profound. Be strong, dear, Mrs. Henderson had said, her voice raspy with age and empathy. He doesn't deserve a dry eye from you. And she was right. He didn't. But sometimes strength wasn't about holding it together. Sometimes it was about falling apart, about embracing the messiness of emotions, about giving yourself permission to grieve, to heal, and to grow. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, Amelia made a decision. She was done with the charade. She was done with the lies. She was done with the pain. She was going to move forward, not for him, not for anyone else, but for herself. She was going to rebuild her life, piece by broken piece, and create something beautiful, something authentic, something that reflected who she truly was. The road ahead would be challenging, she knew that. The scars would remain, but so would her strength, her resilience, and her unwavering spirit. With newfound determination in her eyes, Amelia rose from the couch. It was time to pick up the pieces, not just for her sake, but for the sake of her art, for the sake of her future. She had a story to tell, a masterpiece to create, and she would do it on her own terms. As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, she found herself standing in front of the mirror, her reflection staring back, a stranger in her own eyes. This was a new beginning, a blank canvas, a chance to rewrite her story. She wouldn't let him break her. She would rise from the ashes of their relationship stronger, more determined, and more herself than ever before. The pain was still there, but so was her passion, her creativity, her drive. With trembling hands, she picked up her phone, not to call him, not to seek solace, but to seek opportunity. The divorce papers would come, the lawyers would circle like vultures, and the memories would linger like ghosts. But she was ready. She was ready to fight for her place in the sun, for her right to happiness, for her right to be her true self. In the vast expanse of New York City, nestled in an exclusive neighborhood, stood a towering glass skyscraper. On the top floor of this modern marvel was a penthouse, a place of luxury and indulgence, owned by one of the most successful tech investors of our time. Her name was Vivian Vance. At 42, she was a self-made billionaire, known for her impeccable taste, her sharp business acumen, and an enigmatic aura of power. But today, she wasn't in her usual tailored suit, nor was she reviewing financial statements. She was curled up on a plush velvet sofa reading a book, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the lamp beside her. Meanwhile, in a modest apartment in Brooklyn, a young programmer named Amelia Carter nervously adjusted her clothes. She was preparing for a meeting that could change her life, an opportunity she had been waiting for, dreaming of, but never believing would come true. 6 months ago, she had left her stable job at a tech company to pursue her dream of creating an online platform dedicated to the celebration of art in all its forms. This platform was more than just a project. It was her passion, her identity. Every line of code, every design choice was a piece of her soul. Yet despite her dedication and hard work, she had received little interest. Potential investors had been cool to the idea, finding it too risky, too unconventional, or worse, too niche. Today's meeting was her last chance. She had reached out to Vivian Vance, someone who was rumored to invest in only the most promising startups. Vivian's reputation was formidable, both a blessing and a curse. She was known for her ability to spot a winner from a mile away, but also for her ruthless efficiency in cutting her losses. For Amelia, it was a high-stakes game. If Vivian showed interest, her life would change in an instant. If not, she would have to go back to the drawing board, back to the grind of living paycheck to paycheck, back to the struggle of making ends meet in a city that never sleeps. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. She adjusted her glasses and opened the door to her apartment, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The doorbell of Vivian's penthouse was discreetly tucked away, almost invisible to anyone except those who knew where to look. As Amelia pressed the button, the door slid open silently, revealing a sight that made her gasp. The entrance hall was a symphony of white marble and polished steel. Sunlight streamed in from above, illuminating dust particles that danced in the air like tiny stars. Ahead, she could hear the soft murmur of Vivian's voice, which echoed down the hall. A wave of self-doubt washed over Amelia. Had she made a mistake? Was she too inexperienced, too green to be invited to this level of sophistication? Or was this precisely what Vivian wanted, a chance to test the mettle of her young prodigy? Either way, there was no turning back now. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside, leaving the chaos of her worries behind. As Amelia entered the main room, she found Vivian seated by the floor-to-ceiling windows, her profile bathed in the warm afternoon light. The view was breathtaking. The entire city sprawled beneath them like a glittering tapestry. From this height, the noise and bustle of the city seemed distant, muted, as if the penthouse were floating in the clouds. "You're here," Vivian said, without turning around. Her voice was rich and resonant, like the sound of a finely tuned instrument. Startled by Vivian's quiet intensity, Amelia instinctively clutched the folder containing her project closer to her chest. Yes, I am," Amelia stammered. Is this the right place?" Vivian turned around slowly, her eyes locking onto Amelia's. There was a long pause, pregnant with unspoken expectations. And then a ghost of a smile touched Vivian's lips. "Yes, young lady," she said. "This is exactly where you're supposed to be." Relief washed over Amelia, bringing with it a rush of newfound confidence. She walked towards Vivian, her steps lighter, her shoulders straighter. As she approached, Vivian rose from her seat, extending a hand for greeting. Her fingers were long and elegant, her grip firm yet gentle. "I'm Vivian Vance," she said. "And you are?" "Amelia Carter," she replied, her voice regaining some of its usual strength. Vivian gestured to a chair facing her desk, an expansive surface of polished wood that gleamed under the soft lighting. "Have a seat, Amelia. Let's talk about what you've been working on." For the next hour, Amelia presented her project to Vivian, laying out her vision, her struggles, her triumphs, and her future plans. She talked about the importance of fostering a community of artists, about creating a platform that celebrated creativity rather than just monetized it. As she spoke, she noticed Vivian leaning forward in her chair, her expression attentive and engaged. When Amelia finished, there was a moment of silence before Vivian finally spoke. "You've created something special here, Amelia," she said, her voice thoughtful. "It's rare to find a project that is both innovative and deeply felt. You should be proud of what you've created." Amelia blushed, touched by Vivian's words, but also aware of how much was at stake. "Thank you, Vivian," she said, "but I need your help to take this further. I need your expertise, your connections, your trust in me." Vivian nodded understandingly. "I see your hesitation, Amelia," she said, her gaze unwavering. "You want to know if I can help you succeed, don't you?" Amelia met Vivian's gaze directly. "Yes," she whispered, the word catching in her throat. A slow smile spread across Vivian's face. "Then let's get to work," she said, reaching for her laptop. But as they delved deeper into the project, Vivian's questions became more pointed, more probing. She challenged Amelia's assumptions, questioned her strategies, and pushed her to consider alternative approaches. It was clear that Vivian wasn't just interested in funding the project. She wanted to be an active part of its evolution, its growth, and its future. And while this initially caused some stress for Amelia, she soon realized that Vivian wasn't trying to intimidate her. She was pushing her because she believed in her, because she saw something special in Amelia and in her project. By the end of their meeting, Amelia was drained but exhilarated. She had given it her all, laid bare her dreams and aspirations for her project, and received not just encouragement, but a partnership from someone she admired. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the city, Amelia left Vivian's penthouse with more than just a sense of purpose. She carried with her the promise of support, the assurance of guidance, and the hope of success. The weight of Vivian's backing was a comforting presence on her shoulders as she stepped back into the bustling streets of New York, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The journey had been arduous, but the summit beckoned, promising a view that was worth every bit of the climb. Vivian watched Amelia leave, a faint smile playing on her lips. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with her guidance and support, Amelia would not just survive, she would thrive. As the city lights twinkled on in the distance, Vivian turned back to her desk, her eyes gleaming with renewed purpose. She had a knack for spotting raw talent, but even she had underestimated Amelia. Today had been just the beginning, and she couldn't wait to see where Amelia's journey would lead them both. Days turned into weeks, and under Vivian's mentorship, Amelia's project started to take off. Vivian's guidance wasn't just about financial backing or strategic advice. It was about opening doors, introducing Amelia to a network of mentors, advisors, and collaborators that were instrumental to the project's success. It was about being a sounding board, a steady voice of reason amidst the chaos of startup life. It was about championing Amelia's vision, becoming her most ardent advocate whenever doubts loomed large. The project, initially a quiet whisper in the bustling city, now became a roaring conversation. Artists flocked to the platform, eager to showcase their work, eager to connect. Investors, initially skeptical, now circled cautiously, recognizing the potential they had almost missed. The numbers, once modest, now climbed steadily, each milestone a testament to the project's merit. Each new user a validation of Amelia's dream. Yet, amidst this whirlwind of success, Amelia remained grounded. She remembered the countless hours of work, the moments of despair, the times when she almost gave up. She remembered the hesitant steps into Vivian's office, the quiet hum of uncertainty that had filled her at the time. Looking back, it seemed like a lifetime ago. One evening, as the city lights twinkled outside her window, Amelia sat in her now much less modest apartment, surrounded by the trappings of her success. But her gaze was far away, lost in the memory of her journey. She smiled, a deep, heartfelt smile that reached up to her eyes. Success was sweet, but the journey, the struggle, the resilience, that was where the real triumph lay. It was in the quiet moments like these that Amelia felt the full weight of what she had achieved. It wasn't just about the platform, the numbers, or the accolades. It was about the growth, the learning, the sheer grit and determination it had taken to turn her dream into a reality. And as she reflected on her journey, she knew that she wouldn't trade it for the world. The keyboard clicked softly as Amelia worked late into the night. Outside, the city lights twinkled, a silent symphony of human endeavor. Inside, she was lost in her own world, lines of code and design mock-ups, the hum of the servers a constant lullaby. She was building, creating, bringing to life the app that had been nothing but a whisper in her heart before. Now it was real, tangible, breathing. It had been 6 months since Vivian made her proposition. 6 months since Amelia's life had taken an unexpected, exhilarating turn. That quiet, unassuming woman with eyes as sharp as shards of ice had changed everything for Amelia. No more doubts, no more fears, no more holding back. She was designing the app of her dreams, an app that was going to revolutionize how people interacted with information, connect ideas and minds across borders and oceans. It was more than just an app. It was a vision, a legacy, and she was determined to make it a reality. But as the night deepened and the city lights twinkled above her, a shadow of doubt crept into her heart. Would it be enough? Would her creation be enough to capture the imagination of the tech giants, the investors, the critics? Or would it fade into the sea of countless other apps, unnoticed, forgotten, a mere ripple in the vast ocean of the digital world? She knew she was talented, that the app was good, that it had the potential to change lives. But the world of high-stakes tech was a brutal one. Success was a fickle mistress, and failure, a harsh master. Could she, a woman who had spent most of her life in the shadows, crafting beauty in the solitude of her room, could she step into the limelight and hold her own? The weight of her dream, the hopes and expectations, they pressed down on her, threatening to crush her like an insect beneath their colossal wheels. Was she ready for this? For the glare of the spotlight, the whispers in the boardroom, the scrutiny of the public eye. As the city around her slept, Amelia grappled with her demons, her own self-doubt, her fear of failure, the echoes of a life lived in the shadows. In the hushed quiet of her office, she fought for her dream, for the chance to show the world what she was made of. The outcome was uncertain, the path ahead, a winding labyrinth. But one thing was clear, Amelia was not going to give up. She would face her fears, conquer her doubts, and push forward, fueled by the unwavering belief that her creation, her baby, as she fondly called it, deserved a chance, deserved to be seen. The morning light filtering through the window was her cue to rise from her desk, stretch, shake off the tension of the night, and start anew. Today was the day. Today, she was going to unveil her creation to the world and damn the consequences. Vivian sat in her sleek black office chair, her chin resting on her hand, watching Amelia pace in front of the projector screen. On the screen, the app was brought to life, the culmination of months of work, sweat, tears, and genius. From afar, it was easy to mistake Amelia for one of Vivian's own employees, another cog in the machine of Stratos Labs, but Vivian knew better. She had seen the spark in Amelia's eyes, the quiet confidence that radiated from her very being. As Amelia finished her presentation, Vivian clapped slowly, her eyes gleaming with approval. "This is remarkable, Amelia," she said, her voice echoing in the vast office. "You have created something truly special here. It has the potential to disrupt industries, to change the way we consume information. It is innovative, efficient, elegant. You have outdone yourself." Amelia blushed, her eyes downcast. "Thank you, Vivian," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Vivian rose from her chair, striding towards Amelia, her steps purposeful, her presence commanding. "Don't be shy, Amelia," she said softly, placing a hand on Amelia's shoulder. "You have earned this moment. You have worked tirelessly, poured your heart and soul into this project. It is time for you to shine." With a gentle nudge, Vivian guided Amelia towards the conference room. Inside, the faces of the top executives of Stratos Labs, were a mix of anticipation and curiosity. They were the best in the game, these people, and they were here to witness the unveiling of Amelia's creation. The air crackled with energy as Amelia began her presentation. She spoke with a quiet passion, explaining the intricate details of her app. The features, the functionality, the aesthetics. Her words were precise, concise, confident. There was no trace of the timid girl from the previous months. This was a professional, a leader, a visionary. As Amelia spoke, images flashed on the screen behind her, each one showcasing a facet of her creation. The app interface was sleek, intuitive, user-friendly. The graphics were stunning, the animations smooth, the functionality seamless. Each slide was a testament to Amelia's skill, her creativity, her genius. The executives listened intently, occasionally nodding their heads in approval or jotting down notes. When Amelia finally finished her presentation, there was a moment of silence, a pregnant pause that seemed to stretch on forever. Then the questions began. They were sharp, incisive, challenging, but Amelia was prepared. She answered each question with the same quiet confidence, never once faltering or showing weakness. Vivian watched with a sense of pride swelling in her chest. Amelia had faced the sharks, and so far she was holding her own. The meeting lasted for hours. By the end of it, there wasn't a single dry eye among the executives. It was unanimous. They were impressed, intrigued, excited. They wanted to be a part of this, to help Amelia bring her creation to life. As the meeting drew to a close, Vivian pulled Amelia aside. "You were amazing in there," she said, her voice filled with admiration. "They are on board. We are going to help you launch this app." Tears welled up in Amelia's eyes. She couldn't believe it. Her dream, her creation, it was about to become a reality. The launch of the app was nothing short of spectacular. The media went wild, the investors were ecstatic, and the users, they fell in love with it. It was a resounding success, a testament to Amelia's genius and Vivian's vision. Looking back, Amelia couldn't believe how far she had come. From the depths of despair to the heights of success, she had come a long way. And she knew, deep in her heart, that she wouldn't have been able to do it without Vivian. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, Amelia found herself standing in front of the glass doors of Vivian's office. She hesitated for a moment, her hand hovering over the cool surface. Should she go in? What would she say? How would she begin? Taking a deep breath, Amelia pushed open the door and stepped inside. Vivian looked up from her desk, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Come in, Amelia. Close the door." Amelia did as she was told, her steps echoing softly in the spacious office. "I wanted to thank you," Amelia began, her voice trembling slightly, "for everything you've done for me. For believing in me when I didn't believe in myself, for giving me a chance when no one else did, for being my friend when I needed one the most." Vivian waved her hand dismissively. "Nonsense, Amelia. You don't need to thank me. I was merely investing in talent, in genius, and you, my dear, are both." She paused, her gaze turning distant as if lost in thought. "I think," she continued after a moment, "that sometimes we are presented with opportunities in life that we cannot afford to miss. Your talent, your gift, it was too precious to be wasted away in some obscure corner of the city. I saw that, and I knew I had to do something about it." "But why me?" Amelia asked softly. "Why did you take a chance on me?" Why did you believe in me when no one else did? Vivian turned to face her, her eyes barring into Amelia's with an intensity that took her breath away. Because, she said simply, you are extraordinary, Amelia. And extraordinary people need extraordinary opportunities. It was right there in front of us, a chance to showcase your brilliance, to revolutionize an industry, to change lives. It was an opportunity too good to pass up. And you, Amelia, you were the perfect person to seize it. Their eyes locked, and in that shared gaze, there was a silent understanding. A bond forged in the fires of adversity and tempered by the relentless pursuit of excellence. The room was silent save for the hum of the city outside, a constant reminder of the world they were part of, a world that demanded brilliance, innovation, and courage. I may not have believed in myself, Amelia whispered, her voice thick with emotion. But you saw something in me, something worth nurturing, something worth fighting for. For that, I will be eternally grateful to you. Vivian stood up from her desk, walking towards the window. As she gazed out at the twinkling city lights, she turned back to Amelia, a soft smile gracing her lips. The world is vast, Amelia, and it is filled with extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. All they need is a chance, an opportunity to shine. That is where you and I come in, not to judge them, but to support them, to uplift them, to help them reach their full potential. That is our purpose, Amelia, to be the wind beneath their wings, to be the guiding light in their darkest hour. It is a calling, Amelia, a calling to excellence, a calling to greatness. Her voice echoed in the vast office, resonating with Amelia long after she had left. This is a portrait of an invisible woman. This is what we know. She's a leader, a visionary, a fighter who turned her pain into power, whose quietness was mistaken for weakness, only to surprise everyone, including herself, with the roar of a creative revolution. This is also a story about listening, about paying attention to the whispers that get lost in the clamor, about the courage to trust your gut and the brilliance of letting others shine. But this is not just her story. This is your story too. Every time you see this icon, every time you open up the app, every time you post something you've created, you're writing another chapter in her story. You're making her invisible women visible. And it started with a drawing. Vivian Chen stood on the balcony, the wind ruffling her hair, her eyes fixed on the distant skyline. The city glittered back at her, a million points of light reflecting her own inner turmoil. At 34, she felt like a failure. Years spent honing her craft, dreaming of recognition, working tirelessly to make a name for herself had yielded little more than scraps of success. Awards were few and far between. Clients often didn't understand or appreciate her work, and colleagues dismissed her as overly sensitive, too emotional to handle the rough edges of the industry. But Vivian knew her art wasn't weak. It was vulnerable. And vulnerability, she believed, was not a flaw, but a superpower. When inspiration hit, she would pull out her phone and start sketching. Buildings became expressive figures, their sharp angles softened by flowing lines. Geometric patterns echoed the rhythm of her heartbeat. And in the delicate strokes of her drawings, there was a raw honesty that touched the soul. Yet the world didn't seem to notice. Awards eluded her. Galleries rejected her work. And with each rejection, her confidence waned. She questioned her talent, her choices, and most painfully, her resilience. But Vivian was not one to surrender. Her spirit, much like her art, was too resilient. She was a fighter. She just didn't know it yet. In the solitude of her room, surrounded by stacks of sketchbooks and half-finished projects, she poured her heart and soul into her art. Her drawings became bolder, more introspective, a reflection of her inner turmoil. Little did she know that in those very drawings, she was creating the foundation of her future masterpiece. Then came the turning point. An art competition, a last-ditch effort to validate her talent, to prove to herself and to the world that she belonged. The brief was simple: reimagine the city. Vivian poured everything into her piece, her dreams, her frustrations, her hopes and fears. When she submitted it, she knew she had created something special. The judges agreed. Her drawing won. It didn't bring her fame overnight, but it did bring validation, a small measure of recognition that fueled her determination. Months later, a reporter from a major tech magazine was doing a profile on Vivian Chen. She wanted to know the secret of Vivian's success. Vivian, for the first time in a long time, smiled. "The secret to my success," she said, "it's about knowing when to listen. Sometimes the most brilliant ideas, the most extraordinary talents, are not found in the boardrooms or on the runways. Sometimes they're found in the quietest corners. They're found in a broken voice speaking into a phone, 2 floors below." Years ago, Vivian had stumbled upon an online community. It was a place where people shared their creations, their fears, their dreams. And among them was a young woman named Amelia. Her story resonated with Vivian. Amelia was talented, passionate, but she lacked confidence. Her anxiety made her question her abilities, holding her back from fully realizing her potential. But in that online community, she found support, encouragement, and most importantly, a sense of belonging. Vivian saw her struggles, her triumphs, her growth, and she reached out. She offered guidance, shared resources, and most importantly, listened. She saw the spark in Amelia, the brilliance that needed nurturing, and when the opportunity arose, she took a chance on her. Now, years later, Amelia was sitting in Vivian's office, her eyes shining with gratitude and admiration. The once shy, insecure young woman was now a vital member of Vivian's team, her creativity blossoming under Vivian's mentorship. Together, they had taken the online community to new heights. Their combined efforts had turned it into a thriving platform, a celebration of art, a community built on collaboration and mutual respect. The city buzzed with activity. People went about their day, oblivious to the quiet revolution that was taking place in Vivian's apartment. In the world of technology, where ideas were constantly evolving, innovation was the currency. But here, amidst the chaos, Vivian had found her niche. She was not trying to disrupt the status quo. She was enhancing it. She was adding a human touch to the cold, hard logic of algorithms, reminding people that behind every line of code, every pixel of design, there was a human being with a story, a heart, a soul. Her idea was simple yet profound. Create a platform where artists could connect, collaborate, learn from each other. She envisioned a space where talent wouldn't be buried under layers of bureaucracy, where creativity wouldn't be stifled by criticism, and where passion would be the driving force. It was her magnum opus, the culmination of her journey, her pain, her resilience, and her unwavering belief in the power of art. Yet she knew that to bring this vision to life, she needed more than just talent. She needed resources, expertise, and most importantly, a partner who shared her passion. Enter Jacob Carter, a tech entrepreneur with a reputation for turning innovative ideas into successful businesses. He was intrigued by Vivian's concept, recognizing in it not just a business opportunity, but a chance to make a difference. He saw how Vivian's platform had the potential to disrupt the art industry, to democratize access, to empower artists, and he knew he wanted to be a part of it. Together, Vivian and Jacob assembled a team. They hired developers, designers, and strategists, each hand-picked for their unique skills and shared enthusiasm. In their ranks were veterans of the tech industry, those who understood the complexities of building a successful platform, and newcomers who brought with them fresh perspectives and boundless energy. But what truly set this team apart was their collective passion for art. They were not just building a business, they were building a community. The months that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Developers wrote lines of code that would form the backbone of the platform. Designers created visuals that were as expressive as they were aesthetic. And Vivian, ever the artist, added her personal touch, a splash of color here, a stroke of creativity there, ensuring that every aspect of the platform reflected her artistic vision. It was a labor of love, a testament to their dedication. And then it was ready. The platform was launched. Initially, it was met with curiosity. People explored it, tested it, and provided feedback. But as word spread, as more artists joined, as the community began to grow, it gained momentum. The platform exploded. Artists flocked to it, eager to share their work, to connect with like-minded individuals. Galleries noticed, curators became interested, and collectors started taking notice. The platform was not just a success, it was a revelation. Amidst the whirlwind of success, Vivian found herself busier than ever. But she wasn't just working, she was thriving. She realized that her quietness, once a source of insecurity, had become a strength. It had allowed her to listen, to observe, to empathize, and ultimately to create something truly special. She had learned to embrace her vulnerabilities, to use them as fuel for her creativity, and in doing so, she had found her voice. In the grand tapestry of success, Vivian's story is just one thread, but it's a thread that shines brightly. She is a testament to the power of resilience, the beauty of vulnerability, and the transformative power of art. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, Vivian sat in her now familiar spot on the balcony. The city lights twinkled below, mirroring the sparkle in her eyes. She looked at her phone, the app icon for Canvas, a simple, elegant brushstroke, and she smiled. Her heart, so long a fortress of solitude, was finally a canvas of hope. And she was the artist ready to paint her new life in bold, beautiful colors.